Psycho-cybernetics, written by Maxwell Maltz, MD. Foreword, how psycho-cybernetics changed my life and can do the same for you. There are two kinds of self-help books. Those you read and say, what a great book, and those you experience so profoundly, your life is positively changed forever. When you truly experience a great self-help book, you can mark down the date and time you accidentally stumbled across it or who referred you to it. You can clearly determine the distinction between who you used to be before you read the book and who you are now. This is what will happen when you read Psycho-cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, MD, the recognized classic in the field of self-help books. Since it was first published in 1960, Psycho-cybernetics has sold more than 35 million copies worldwide. As a result of people experiencing this book, readers in all walks of life have succeeded at higher levels than ever before. The self-help industry itself was changed too. Today, virtually everything written and discussed about visualization or mental imagery was directly influenced by Maltz's work and is deeply rooted in the principle of psycho-cybernetics. My introduction to psycho-cybernetics. In February 1987, shortly after graduating from college and moving to California, I decided to go into business for myself as a personal fitness trainer. Because I had won a national title in college wrestling and had been trained by Olympic champions Dan Gable and Bruce Baumgartner, I figured I had something valuable to teach young athletes as well as anyone who desired to be more physically fit. Even as I was embarking on this career, I felt that something was holding me back. There was this inner voice telling me I wasn't good enough, that I couldn't make it. To be honest, first, I had no business experience. Second, I had very little money. And third, deep down, I felt like a failure, even before I started. Imagine that. I wanted to succeed, but felt like a failure. Why did I feel like a failure? When I think about that question, I recall that when I was in high school, my goal was to wrestle for Dan Gable at the University of Iowa. I fulfilled that goal, but I wasn't the number one guy in my weight class. I was almost always number two. I got a lot of matches in tournaments and dual meets and won the majority of them, but I was not in the driver's seat. And so after my sophomore season, I transferred to Edinboro University of Pennsylvania, where I'd be on the varsity. During my junior year at Edinboro, I set a single-season win record for the team with 39 wins and won the NCAA Division II national title. After winning the Division II title, I was ranked 7th overall in the country and qualified for the Division I tournament. My goals were not only to win the tournament I'd already won, but the Division I tourney as well. Well, I fell short, way short. I was crushed afterward, yet fully committed to coming back as a senior and making up for my poor showing. During my senior year, despite having far more skill than ever before, I fell short again. I took 5th in the Division II tournament and did not qualify for the Division I meet. There were many reasons I can give now for why I fell short, but at the time, I couldn't put my finger on them. And when I began my business, I suspected that it was the same reasons that were causing me to worry and feel fearful about my. As fate would have it, in early May of 1987, when I was nearly out of business due to a lack of clientele, Jack, a successful 57-year-old entrepreneur, signed up for 12 lessons. Whenever he showed up to train, he'd scan to see what books I had in my office, which would lead to a lively discussion of what we were reading. During Jack's 5th session, when he was catching a breather between sets, he asked the following life-changing question. Matt, have you ever read Psycho-cybernetics? No, I replied. Is it good? Well, it's sort of like the Bible of self-help. You really need to read it. Over the next 10 minutes, Jack talked to me about success and the self-image. He told me that Dr. Maltz was a plastic surgeon who figured out that a person cannot rise above how he sees himself. Our future, Jack said, is controlled by a mental blueprint we have inside our subconscious mind, and it dictates where we think we belong. If you want to get more clients and make more money, then you need to expand your self-image before you can have them. Trying to achieve without expanding your self-image doesn't lead to lasting positive change. After Jack's lesson, I got in my car and drove to the nearest bookstore, the Capitola Book Cafe. I pulled a copy of Psycho-cybernetics from the shelf and drove back to my office to begin reading. In the preface, which appears in its original version in this edition, Dr. Maltz wrote, "This book has been designed not merely to be read, but to be experienced. You can acquire information from reading a book, but to experience, You must creatively respond to information. He goes on to advise readers to continue to practice the techniques in the book and reserve judgment for at least 21 days, the amount of time that, in fact, research now confirms it takes to effect change. He cautions readers not to overanalyze the techniques, critique them, or intellectualize about whether they could work. You can only prove them to yourself, he adds, by doing them and judging the results for yourself. Okay, so that's what I did. And soon I began to see exactly why I felt like a failure and how this poor self-image was indeed holding me back in my business. In short, I felt like a failure because I was reliving my disappointments, my losses, my setbacks, my failures. Each day when I felt badly about myself, I was as if I'd rubbed my face in the manure of bad memories instead of showering my face with clear water memories of what I'd done well. Here's a snapshot of what I would say to myself. Yes, I achieved my goals to wrestle at Iowa and could be coached by Dan Gable, but I wasn't a varsity man. I was number 2. Yes, I got a full ride at Edinburgh and won a national title, but I didn't win the Division I national title, and I didn't win the Division II title as a senior. Yes, I set a single-season victory mark, but I didn't win all my matches. Even though I'd achieved something that almost all athletes who take up any sport will never achieve, I thought I was a failure because I didn't win everything. Moreover, I didn't realize that having goals and thinking positively aren't enough. No one had ever told me about the self-image. Despite my learning self-hypnosis, which I thought would help psych me up, no one ever taught me to go back into the past and relive my best memories. I was never taught to picture what I wanted, let alone to feel I could have it, and I do have it. I was carrying these old feelings of failure in my bones and into my business and everything I did. Once again, I was setting goals for myself. I truly wanted to succeed. At the same time, I doubted whether or not I was good enough to train people. After all, who was I? I wasn't a world champion or an Olympic champion. I was just a one-time national champion. As I devoured Psycho-cybernetics, I discovered and experienced what I needed to be doing on a daily basis. It was something I had never done before. I was to enter this place that Dr. Maltz called the theater of the mind. I closed my eyes, then remember and relive my best moments, seeing them play out like a mental movie, my victories, my successes, my happiest times. After reliving and re-experiencing myself at my best, I was able to flip a switch and use my imagination in the same way I use my memory. I could imagine and feel that I was achieving a goal in the future, but experience it as if it was happening now, almost as if it was the memory of another accomplished goal. Once I mastered this technique, everything began to change for me. Instantly, and yes, I do mean instantly, I felt good. I felt happy. I felt successful. I felt like a winner. It was an odd sensation. Intellectually, it made no sense. How could I be happy now? How could I feel success now? How could I feel like a winner now? Didn't I have to achieve those goals in order to feel good, to be happy? And what about all those failures? Were they simply forgotten? Wasn't I supposed to feel bad for ever not achieving everything I set out to do? This is where psycho-cybernetics cannot be understood by passively reading. This is where it cannot be understood by analysis, argument, debating, or intellectualizing. You must experience the reality of it in order to truly know the truth. The mere reading of words will not show you or give you the experience of truth. Since that glorious day of May of 1987, I've achieved a lot. The list of achievements, accomplishments, and victories that I can recall is quite long. In the short term, I built a successful personal fitness business. Then in 1997, at 34 years of age, I won a world championship in Kung Fu in Beijing, China, beating the Chinese at their own game, something no other American had ever done. Since I've written books and created fitness and martial arts programs that have found a worldwide audience. In 2003, my friend Dan Kennedy, who headed the Psycho-cybernetics Foundation at the time, asked me to take charge of the foundation's website. 2 years later, I bought the company. And since then, I have been running seminars on psycho-cybernetics and conducting group and individual coaching and its techniques and principles. The many people with whom I've worked will testify that they have succeeded in ways they never thought possible. Entrepreneurs, physicians, salespeople, athletes, lawyers, coaches, teachers, musicians, writers, and others from every walk of life have used the knowledge that Dr. Maltz so eloquently taught. They, like millions of others, have been introduced to psycho-cybernetics, have made their lives great in the now, and for the future. As you read this book, one of the many secrets you will come to understand is this. You can be happy now as well as every single day you are working toward achieving your goals. When you discover happiness along the way, instead of expecting that you can only be happy once you've achieved a goal, then you've already fulfilled the promise of psycho-cybernetics. In his book, I Can See Clearly Now, Dr. Wayne W. Dwyer wrote about the influence that psycho-cybernetics had on his career. And it's easy to understand why he's so fond of saying, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. In this edition of Psycho-Cybernetics, Dr. Maltz's words remain as they were originally written for the most part, so the vibration of his message will shine upon you like the sun. The few changes that have been made are minor and meant only to make the text more accessible to the contemporary reader. My contributions to Dr. Maltz's masterwork comprise this foreword and afterword, as well as commentary throughout that I believe will give you additional guidance and understanding when using the self-image improvement process. I encourage you to write to me through psycho-cybernetics.com with any questions or comments that you may have about this book and Dr. Maltz's work, as well as for information about coaching, seminars, certification, opportunities to continue spreading this message across the globe. Matt Furey, President of the Psycho-Cybernetics Foundation, Inc.